Hey, what's up everyone? Cody Brown here from West Virginia Archives and History with today's edition of Mountain State History, the Proclamation of 1763. Following the Treaty of Paris in 1763 and the British victory over the French in the 7 Years' War, the British gained a great deal of territory between the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. This new land provided the British with several new trade routes and posed an interesting predicament. What if the colonists began moving west? Well, the British knew that it was already a challenging endeavor to impose trade and authority over the colonists from across the Atlantic. Still, that challenge would be even more significant if they began settling west of the Appalachians away from the coast. Furthermore, with the French previously occupying the Ohio Valley, many of them remained in the area as well as their Native American allies who were at their side during the 7 Years' War. The British, wanting to avoid further conflict and damage to their economy, chose to let those there remain there. With that in mind, the British did not want the colonists to travel across the Appalachians into the area, fearing hostilities between the two and furthering warfare. Thus, King George III issued the Royal Proclamation of 1763 on October 7, 1763, which declared the boundary of the 13 colonies, the Appalachian Mountains, and forbade any settlement or travel west of them. This did not make the colonists very happy. The colonists helped their British brethren during the 7 Years' War, and they felt that they had a right to settle in that land since they shed their blood in assistance of the British Crown. This is also called foreshadowing to future grievances the colonists had against the Crown in the lead-up to the American Revolution. The colonists largely ignored the King's proclamation because they knew that it would be virtually impossible for the Crown to enforce, and they began settling west, which created hostilities between them and Native Americans in the area. Many native tribes in the Ohio Valley were not happy to be under British sovereignty because they felt that their relationship with the French was amicable. Several years later, following rampant bloodshed on the western frontier, primarily due to Pontiac's rebellion, the Royal Proclamation of 1763 was nullified and replaced by the Treaty of Fort Stanwix, which gave the British all Iroquois lands south of the Ohio River and east of the Alleghenies, as well as the Treaty of Hard Labor, which ceded Cherokee lands between Kentucky and the Kanawha River. These two treaties opened up the western frontier for settlement. So, let's review. 1. King George III issued the Royal Proclamation of 1763 following the Treaty of Paris and the 7 Years' War, which ceded French lands between the Appalachian Mountains and the Mississippi River. The British saw themselves as a mercantilist empire who operated on maritime trade. Thus, they feared Western colonial expansion would make it more challenging to maintain control of their colonists if they were to move westward off the Atlantic coast. 2. Think of the proclamation line as a barrier between colonists in the east and Native Americans in the west. 3. The proclamation angered the colonists because they felt that they shed their blood for that land alongside the British. 4. Rampant bloodshed took place on the western frontier following the 7 Years' War due to many of the native tribes' amicable relationship with the French and British post-war policies. 5. The Treaty of Fort Stanwix and the Treaty of Hard Labor replaced the Royal Proclamation of 1763. So you ask, okay, well, so what? Why is the Royal Proclamation of 1763 important? Well, 1. Colonists were angered by the proclamation and felt that the Crown was stealing their self-sufficiency and ability to self-rule. The colonists felt that they had every right to obtain those new lands they helped obtain during the 7 Years' War. And this serves as one of the first instances where the colonists start to see the British as oppressors instead of protectors. Although it was later overshadowed by the Stamp Act, Intolerable Acts, and Boston Massacre, the proclamation was not lost on the Founding Fathers, in particular Thomas Jefferson, who disparaged King George III in the Declaration of Independence for raising the conditions of new appropriation of lands. All right, everyone, that's it for today. Make sure to follow up this video with the DBQs, link to this page to gain an even greater understanding of the Proclamation of 1763. Thanks for watching this edition of Mountain State History. For everyone here at Archives and History, I'm Cody Brown. We'll see you next time.